What's up everyone, and welcome to a brand new scenario. This time, we have one that you guys actually voted for. You may know my other scenario, what if Gohan and Goten were twins, which is honestly one of my favorite ones, and in there, we explore something similar. Somewhat inspired by that, I decided to see if we could apply the same concept to another pair of brothers, a pair which would have had a greater effect on Dragon Ball as a whole. So let's begin. Far away, on planet Vegeta, Lord Frieza has recently taken over the planet and now commands the Saiyans. One low-class warrior, Bardock, is suspicious of Frieza and doesn't trust his intentions at all. He consults his wife, Gine, after hatching a plan. He wants to save his two infant sons, should anything happen to the Saiyans because of Frieza. These two children of his are named Kakarot and Raditz. They're not identical twins though, just fraternal. They're both about ready to come out of their incubation pods, and as soon as that happens, Bardock and Gine prepare to send them off planet. They found a nice planet somewhere far away called Earth, and they should be safe there. After a sad goodbye, one space pod is launched to a planet called Earth, containing the two kids. Sending two separate ones would cause suspicion, otherwise Bardock and Gine would have gone as well. Everything should be okay though. If Frieza does nothing, then great. They can just retrieve the kids and they can come back and live on planet Vegeta with them. And if Frieza does do anything, well, at least they survive. And sadly, the latter is what happens. Frieza destroys planet Vegeta and everyone who is on the planet at the time. Disregarding a few Saiyans that were off planet at the point, every member of the Saiyan race dies. Besides Raditz and Kakarot, there are a few others out there, but they won't be important for a while. Meanwhile, the space pod continues towards its destination, and the twin brothers now land on Earth, somewhere in a forest. An old man stumbles upon the space pod, curious to see what it is, and is surprised to see that there's two baby boys inside. This man, named Gohan, takes these two kids into his home and cares for them, planning on raising them. Gohan takes good care of these two kids, despite their rowdy nature. Fortunately though, this time, he's more careful and attentive to the children, and neither end up getting their head injury. Handling two kids at once, he's got to be a lot more careful. And due to this, the two of them retain their Saiyan nature, and Saiyan names as well, but are raised by Gohan to be better. Originally he was going to give them different names, but they already remembered theirs for some reason, so they're going to stay as Raditz and Kakarot. Given that it's two kids instead of one, he pays closer attention to them later on as well, and after surviving the first Great Ape attack, with Raditz and Kakarot knowing about it, neither of them end up transforming and killing Gohan later on. They end up being raised to be much more disciplined, and are good people despite being Saiyans, but they're not like what Goku was as a kid. The two Saiyan children are very different from Kid Goku in terms of personality, both being Saiyan-like and human-like. While they retain their Saiyan names, they adopt the Sun family name as they are fond of Gohan, and they've been raised well by him. They both kinda see him as a teacher and a parental figure. Gohan did train them after all, and helped them to develop into more disciplined and human-like children, so they don't really refer to him as Grandpa Gohan, more so Master Gohan, or simply just Gohan. And while the bond is a little bit different, they still have a good bond as teacher and students. As for the power pole, Gohan can't decide who to gift it to, but the two of them both use it for training and become experienced with it. They both learn how to use it, but Kakarot decides to be the one who will carry it around, but if ever needed, Raditz also has experience with it and knows how to wield it. Years go by and the two of them are in the forest one day, fishing for some food for themselves and Gohan. The two of them are able to catch a pretty hefty fish, and are proud of themselves for the great catch. They take it back home, but on their way, they encounter someone, or something. Raditz yells at Kakarot to watch out, as Kakarot nearly gets hit by a car that was passing by. But the thing that almost hit Kakarot wasn't a monster, it was just a car, and a young girl steps outside of it and sees two young boys who were provoked and are both in a fighting stance. However, they don't attack the car or the girl. They act hostile towards this girl, but after some conversation, they ease up a little bit. They find out her name is Bulma, and she's looking for something called Dragon Balls, which they don't really know what she's talking about. They're still a little bit suspicious and hostile towards her, but they decide to bring her back to their home for a meal with Master Gohan. Maybe he knows something about what she's searching for. They bring her back to introduce her, and of course, Gohan actually does know about them. A while back, the three of them found one, but Kakarot and Raditz didn't actually know what it was. However, he's not nearly as knowledgeable about it as Bulma is. After learning more about it from what Bulma says, the two boys are interested in the idea of a journey to find these. It could be a fun challenge for them, and it sounds potentially dangerous. They decide to join Bulma in her search, with Gohan approving of it, thinking that some real-world experience could help these boys grow. They haven't really ventured outside of their house much. Bulma allows them to join, and the three of them end up heading off on the journey to find the Dragon Balls. The two of them are a lot more disciplined and sensical, at least compared to how Kid Goku was. Without Kakarot hitting his head, and with Master Gohan being around longer and as a better influence, the two of them are a lot better mannered than Goku was, but still not too well-mannered as they still have that Saiyan side to them. They're just smarter, really. But this time, that means Kakarot doesn't end up taking off Bulma's underwear while she sleeps. That would just be weird. Yeah, they actually have some more common sense this time, and no, that's not really the right thing to do. Bulma's actually pretty surprised. These two boys, despite living in the forest, are still somewhat pleasant to be around, despite them being a little bit cold sometimes, but she can tell that they both have good intentions. The real shock to her is finding out about their origin. Bulma asks how they're so powerful and why they both have tails, and they say it's partially due to Grandpa Gohan training them, but also they bring up the fact that they're not human, which explains the tail. Bulma understandably thinks that they're joking at first, until the kids bring up what little they know about their past. They don't know much, because they were only kids when it happened, but they describe that they're from a race of people called Saiyans and they were sent off their planet by their parents, but they don't really recall why. But it seemed like it was for a good reason. Maybe the planet was in danger, but who knows. This partially freaks Bulma out, knowing that they're aliens, but also, it saddens her a bit. They're obviously being serious, and that means they're either abandoned or something terrible happened to their family and their planet. They don't really mind too much though. They've grown accustomed to Earth, and they don't really miss their parents that much. But Bulma still feels a little empathy for them due to them basically losing their original family and race. She's interested though to hear about them being aliens, but since they were kids, they don't remember much about their lives on Vegeta other than their names, and the fact that their parents sent them away, so she can't really learn any info about this faraway planet. It's interesting though to know that there's aliens out there somewhere. Pretty cool. The trio continues on their journey, and they end up encountering a lost turtle. This part goes pretty normally, with the three of them bringing the turtle back to the ocean, who returns with an old man as a reward. The man introduces himself as the Turtle Hermit, Master Roshi, and this jogs the memories of Raditz and Kakarot a bit. They remember Gohan mentioned someone named Roshi before, and they ask Roshi if he knows someone by that name. It's a little shocking to them when they find out that this Roshi guy was actually Gohan's master, and the two kids awkwardly bow and show some respect, since this guy is the master of their master. He's the double master. Roshi's interested to hear that these guys are being trained and raised by Gohan, and after hearing what their objective is, he gives them his necklace with the Dragon Ball in it, without Bulma needing to expose herself. However, they gain access to the Nimbus, but they're not able to ride it. It's a bit of a shame, but it's no surprise that they aren't wholly pure of heart due to them still having some of their Saiyan mindset and not being as pure as Kid Goku was in the original story. This isn't to say that they're bad people, it's just that they're not fully innocent like Goku was. But they got the Dragon Ball at least. Master Roshi didn't get to see a nude girl though, so he kinda missed out in this scenario. But since the boys know Gohan, he decides to help them either way due to that connection, and the fact that he sees some potential in these kids. The search continues and it leads the trio to a village, where they hear about a monster called Oolong who's been terrorizing the village people, and that they can't get another Dragon Ball without defeating this guy. Huh, an actual fight. That sounds like fun for Raditz and Kakarot. The monster sounds strong and could prove to be a formidable foe for them. But they need to put out some bait. Bulma asks if Kakarot and Raditz would dress as a girl, and they sharply say no. Bulma instead acts as the bait for Oolong, who's scared at first when seeing his beastly form, but begins to fall for him when he transforms into that handsome form that he had. While both Oolong and Bulma are distracted, Oolong is startled when the two boys jump out of nowhere and take him down with a single kick, only for him to turn back into a pig not long after. They learn that he's actually kinda weak, and that his true form is this pig form, with the village people all seeing who he really is. After getting the Dragon Ball from the villagers, the trio takes Oolong along with them as basically a prisoner, pretty much like normal. So this whole part of the story doesn't really change much, except the actual encounter with Oolong. While things have been pretty normal so far, things are about to change after the desert part. They're ambushed by a thief named Yamcha and his friend Puar. Kakarot and Raditz work together and are able to fight this guy, and overpower him and actually defeat him. They're surprised at Yamcha's strength, and the fact that he's able to face them 2-on-1. They're about to defeat the bandit, but eventually, he retreats at the sight of Bulma, but also because he's kinda scared about how strong these boys are. Yamcha's not done yet. Later that night, the two boys stay on watch as Bulma and Oolong sleep, and they encounter Yamcha and Puar again, who are now searching for the Dragon Balls after overhearing about them. Raditz and Kakarot fend off the two of them, and threaten Yamcha if he ever tries to come back. They don't want to keep dealing with this guy. But Yamcha doesn't stop there though, and the next day, they encounter him again. Yamcha knows that he can't defeat them, and decides to act a little more cunning. Instead of giving them the car, he asks if he could join them all in their search for the Dragon Balls, sort of extending an olive branch to them and trying to make a truce. He's nervous about it with Bulma being there, and no one trusts him obviously, but since it keeps him in check, Raditz and Kakarot are fine with it, and if Yamcha does try to do anything, well, they could just take him out easy. So now, the group consists of Kakarot, Raditz, Bulma, Oolong, and two new members who are working on their own, Yamcha and Puar. Yamcha's plan goes kinda sour, given that he's too busy being infatuated with Bulma and he's not as focused on the Dragon Balls. But this is good, it means Yamcha isn't a threat for now. The group arrives at Fire Mountain and they don't know how to get to the top. Raditz suggests trying to use the Nimbus, thinking it might be able to work this time somehow, but they can't get it to work. Suddenly, they're attacked by a large man, Ox King. Out of nowhere though, Ox King seizes his hostility when he sees Raditz next to a Nimbus and Kakarot having the power pole on his back. It gets him to realize that these guys have some sort of relation to Roshi and Gohan, both of whom he's very fond of. They get along pretty well and introduce themselves, with Yamcha, Bulma, Oolong, and Puar being terrified. Yet Kakarot and Raditz actually begin talking to Ox King about who they are. He sends them on a quest to Master Roshi, and also to find his daughter, so the group splits up here. Since Yamcha didn't encounter Chi-Chi before by being on his own, this is their first time hearing about her. Raditz, Bulma, and Oolong decide to go see Master Roshi, while Kakarot, Yamcha, and Puar go to find Chi-Chi. Without use of the Nimbus, it makes it all a lot harder since they don't have the ease of transport, and this is why they need to split up and divide the workload. Yamcha is still not really too trustworthy, but Kakarot is able to keep him in check kinda. Besides, if Yamcha does anything stupid, that ruins his plans of getting the Dragon Balls for himself. With Raditz's group going to find Roshi, and Kakarot's group going to find Chi-Chi, they're off on their own and this is where we're going to leave off for now. What will happen with Raditz and his group if they encounter Roshi again? What will happen with Kakarot when they find Chi-Chi? Will Yamcha and Puar become more trustworthy, or will they betray Kakarot when they're alone? Leave your thoughts in the comments below and suggest what you'd think will happen in the next part. As always, remember to drop a like if you liked the video, and subscribe as well if you haven't already, and hit the bell icon for notifications about future parts of this What If, or any other videos I make in the future. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.